most people think of survival mode as a panic reaction, fast decisions, high adrenaline, and loud fear. But for an INFJ, survival mode looks different. It's not loud. It's not explosive. It's quiet, inward, and often invisible to the people around them. INFJs are already sensitive by nature. They're always reading the room, feeling emotions, and processing everything deeply. So when life pushes them too hard, through betrayal, burnout, loss, or trauma, they don't just stress out like everyone else. They shift into a version of themselves that most people never see. This isn't about being dramatic. It's about self-protection. When the INFJ reaches that breaking point, their entire system changes. They stop functioning the way they usually do. Their strengths go dark. Their energy pulls inward. And they enter what can only be called extreme survival mode. Most people won't notice right away. INFJs often hide it. They smile less, talk less, and keep moving like nothing's wrong. But inside, everything is different. The way they think, feel, and see the world becomes clouded. Their emotions get buried or explode. And they start showing signs that something is very wrong. This video explores what really happens when an INFJ enters this intense state. 6 changes. 6 inner shifts that happen when they're no longer safe, no longer seen, and no longer able to carry the weight they've been holding for too long. These things may not look dramatic on the outside, but they are powerful signals that the INFJ has reached a limit. If you're an INFJ, you might recognize these patterns in yourself. If you know one, it could help you finally understand what's really going on behind their silence. Because INFJs don't always ask for help. They don't always explain. But when they enter survival mode, everything changes. And unless someone sees it, they might start to fade into themselves and never fully come back. So let's take a closer look. Here are the things that happen when an INFJ is pushed into extreme survival mode. Thing number 1. Emotional shutdown and numbing. INFJs usually feel everything. Joy, sorrow, tension, love, they pick it all up. But when they reach a level of stress or emotional overload they can't handle, something inside them clicks off. The feelings don't go away, but they stop showing up in the same way. It's like pulling the plug on their emotional energy. Instead of crying, they go quiet. Instead of feeling fear, they go numb. Their face might stay calm, even if their heart is racing. They stop reacting the way people expect, because their system is protecting itself from further harm. This shutdown doesn't happen overnight. It builds. First, they start to pull back from conversations. Then they stop answering messages. They may sit in silence, zone out, or go through the motions of their day like they're on autopilot. It's not laziness. It's not apathy. It's survival. This state is a defense. When an INFJ feels emotionally unsafe, when they've been hurt too deeply, misunderstood too often, or pushed too far, they stop letting emotions surface. Not because they don't have them, but because feeling more would break something inside. Numbing is the mind's way of saying, we can't take any more. And for INFJs, who already feel so much, it happens when they're carrying more than they can process. This emotional shutdown can confuse others. The INFJ may seem distant or cold when they're normally warm and caring. Friends may feel pushed away. But the truth is, the INFJ isn't trying to hurt anyone. They're trying to survive. During this time, they may stop doing things they love. Music doesn't move them. Words don't flow. Conversations feel like noise. Even good things can feel meaningless. It's not depression in every case, but it's a serious emotional freeze that signals internal distress. And yet INFJs rarely talk about it. They don't want to burden others. They may feel ashamed for being too much or not enough. So they stay silent and hope it passes. But this emotional shutdown is one of the clearest signs that an INFJ is not okay. If you see it in yourself, recognize it. Don't ignore it. And if you see it in someone else, don't push, just offer quiet support and space to breathe. Because numbing isn't peace. It's pain without expression. And it means the INFJ is trying to protect something too raw to feel. Thing number 2, withdrawing into solitude or isolation, NFJs need alone time. That's normal. It helps them recharge and reflect. But when they're in extreme survival mode, their need for solitude goes beyond a simple break. It becomes full isolation, a retreat not just from the world, but from connection itself. This withdrawal often happens without warning. One day they're responding to texts or showing up at work. The next, they're unreachable. They stop picking up the phone. They avoid eye contact. They cancel plans and say they're fine, even if they're falling apart inside. To others, it may seem like they're just being quiet. But for the INFJ, it's something deeper. They don't feel safe. Not emotionally, not mentally, not spiritually. So they pull all their energy inward and disappear into themselves. The difference between healthy alone time and survival isolation is the feeling behind it. Healthy solitude feels restful. Survival isolation feels like hiding. Like protecting raw skin from more pain. Like going somewhere deep inside where no one can reach. This retreat often happens when the INFJ feels betrayed, overwhelmed, or emotionally abandoned. They may have tried to explain themselves and been ignored. Or they have taken on too much and finally broken under the pressure. So they go silent, not out of anger, but out of self-defense. And during this time, they don't want anyone near them, not because they don't care, but because they can't handle one more emotional demand. Even a friendly message might feel like pressure. Even a well-meaning question might feel like an attack. The INFJ isn't trying to punish anyone. They just need to breathe without performing. Feel without explaining. Be without fixing everything for everyone else. This withdrawal can last hours, days, or even longer. And the longer it goes, the harder it is to come back. The INFJ may start to feel invisible, disconnected, or misunderstood. They might even convince themselves that no one wants them around, which feeds the cycle of isolation. But the truth is, they want connection. They just want it to feel safe, real, gentle. And in survival mode, even love can feel like a threat if it asks too much. So when an INFJ isolates deeply, it's not rejection. It's not selfishness. It's a signal that their world has become too loud, too painful, too demanding. And now, their soul is asking for stillness. Thing number 3, cognitive overload and mental freeze. NFJs are deep thinkers. Their mind is always active, sorting through emotions, memories, patterns, and future possibilities. But when the stress becomes too intense, that mental depth starts working against them. Instead of gaining clarity, their thoughts start to pile up. They get stuck. And the result is a complete cognitive overload. This is more than being tired or distracted. It's a full mental shutdown. The INFJ may find it hard to make even simple decisions. Choosing what to eat, responding to a message, or starting a basic task can feel overwhelming. They know what needs to be done, but their mind refuses to cooperate. This kind of freeze can make them seem unmotivated or lazy, but what's really happening is internal chaos. There are too many thoughts competing for attention, and none of them can move forward. Their mind is overloaded, but their expression becomes blank. It's like trying to run 10 apps on a phone that only has room for 3. It just crashes. This is especially hard for INFJs because they're used to being in control of their thoughts. They're usually organized, thoughtful, and capable. But in survival mode, their strongest skill, processing, turns into their biggest challenge. The same brain that sees connections and meaning now sees only noise and confusion. During this time, INFJs might forget things easily. They may reread the same sentence 5 times and still not absorb it. Conversations feel draining. Tasks that were once simple feel impossible. And that creates guilt. They start to believe they're failing or letting others down, which only adds more stress to the cycle. In some cases, this mental freeze can lead to complete withdrawal or emotional numbness. The INFJ may shut off entirely, unable to deal with the demands of everyday life. Others may think they're just zoning out or avoiding responsibility, but what's really happening is internal collapse. INFJs may also become very quiet during this phase. Not because they have nothing to say, but because words are too hard to form. Thoughts feel too heavy to explain. And even if they wanted to talk, they may not know where to start. The way out of this mental freeze isn't more pressure. It's space, quiet, kindness, and patience from both themselves and others. Because what looks like doing nothing is really the brain trying to protect itself from complete burnout. And once that fog starts to clear, the INFJ can slowly begin to think again. But in survival mode, their mind isn't trying to perform. It's trying to survive. Thing number 4, heightened sensitivity and irritability. INFJs are always sensitive, but in a grounded, tuned-in kind of way. They notice feelings, read the room, and pick up subtle signals. But when they enter survival mode, that sensitivity sharpens. It stops being a gift and starts feeling like a curse. Sounds feel louder. Light feels brighter. Small problems feel huge. And even tiny bits of criticism or pressure can feel like attacks. The INFJ becomes overstimulated, not just physically, but emotionally. Their system is so raw that everything feels like too much. This often leads to irritability. Normally patient and calm, the INFJ might suddenly snap at small things. They might get frustrated over a noise, a delay, or a question they've answered before. They're not trying to be rude, they're trying to manage their inner chaos, while the world keeps asking for more. This irritability can be surprising to people close to them. The INFJ who once offered gentle support is now withdrawn, cold, or even biting. They might push people away or respond with short, blunt answers. It's not because they've stopped caring. It's because they've stopped having the energy to pretend everything's fine. In survival mode, INFJs lose their usual filter. The emotional pressure inside becomes so strong that it leaks out in frustration or silence. They might slam a door, avoid eye contact, or go hours without speaking. These are warning signs that something much deeper is going on. They're not angry for no reason. They're overwhelmed. They're running on empty. And every sound, request, or expectation feels like another weight being thrown on top of them. This phase is also where INFJs often get misunderstood. People may see them as dramatic or moody. But the truth is, they've been holding in too much for too long, and now their system is on edge. What they need isn't criticism or correction. They need relief. A break from pressure. A safe place where they don't have to be on. Because once they feel safe again, their natural calm and warmth will return. But until then, that irritability is not a sign of weakness. It's a signal that their sensitivity is in overdrive. And survival mode has pushed them into a space where every little thing feels like too much. Thing number 5, hypervigilance and safety seeking. When INFJs feel emotionally or physically unsafe, their entire inner world shifts into alert mode. This is more than worry. It's hypervigilance, an ongoing sense that something bad is about to happen, even when things seem calm. They start scanning everything. Words, body language, energy. Every conversation becomes a puzzle they have to solve. Every decision feels high stakes. They might replay events over and over in their mind, trying to figure out if they missed something important. It's exhausting, but they can't turn it off. This is a survival instinct. When the INFJ has been hurt, betrayed, or pushed into danger, their system starts protecting them in every way it can. They stop trusting easily. They question motives. They feel like they have to watch their back, even with people they once felt safe around. This constant scanning can make them seem distant or guarded. They're not being rude, they're watching, studying, looking for signs that something is off. Their intuition becomes a full-time security system, and it's always running. At the same time, they start seeking safety in small ways. They rearrange their environment, avoid certain places, or cling to routines that make them feel in control. They may avoid calls, cancel plans, or refuse to answer personal questions. Anything that feels risky is removed. They might also start setting very firm boundaries. What used to be flexible is now non-negotiable. They say no more often. They walk away faster. And they don't explain themselves because survival doesn't have room for discussion. This phase can feel lonely because INFJs start pulling away from people they once trusted. But it's not personal. It's protective. They need to rebuild a sense of control before they can open up again. Hypervigilance is a clear sign that an INFJ no longer feels emotionally safe. And until that safety is restored, they won't relax. They won't open up. They won't take emotional risks. But once that safety returns, through time, trust, and healing, the hypervigilance fades. The guard comes down. And the INFJ begins to breathe again. Thing number 6, inner collapse and rebuilding phase. When survival mode stretches too long, something inside the INFJ starts to break down. Not in a dramatic or visible way, but in a deep, quiet, painful shift that even they might not fully understand at first. This is the inner collapse. It happens after long periods of emotional pressure, betrayal, burnout, or feeling unsupported. The INFJ has tried everything: being strong, being silent, setting boundaries, isolating, shutting down, and none of it was enough to stop the pain. So something in them gives out. This collapse might show up as a deep sadness. Not just a bad day, but an emptiness. A feeling like nothing matters. Like they have lost connection to the things that once made them feel alive. They may question everything: who they are, what they believe, and whether the people in their life ever really saw them for who they are. They may cry without knowing why. Or they may feel numb and disconnected from their own identity. This is the lowest point. But strangely, it's also the beginning of something new. Because when the INFJ collapses internally, they don't stay there. Something else begins to stir. A quiet rebuilding. A slow redefinition of self. They begin sorting through the pieces: what to keep, what to let go of, what no longer fits. This rebuilding phase can be long and lonely. It requires honesty, time, and space. INFJs often turn to journaling, spiritual reflection, or deep self-work. They may change their lifestyle, their relationships, or even their beliefs. This process isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who they really were, underneath all the pressure, expectations, and emotional pain. It's about reclaiming their voice, their values, and their vision for their life. People around them may not notice the shift right away. But eventually, they'll see a stronger INFJ emerge. Still quiet. Still thoughtful. But clearer. Firmer. More rooted. The inner collapse is not the end of the INFJ. It's a breaking open. A painful but powerful step toward healing. And those who rise from that place carry a deeper wisdom and strength than ever before. This is the final thing that happens when an INFJ is pushed too far. They break, but only to rebuild something stronger, truer, and more untouchable than before. Survival mode looks different for every INFJ. Some become quiet. Some become sharp. Some disappear into silence, while others overflow with emotion. But in all cases, the shift is real, and it matters. These 6 changes are more than just reactions. They're signs that the INFJ has crossed a line inside, and their system is trying to protect what's left. It's not weakness. It's survival. It's a silent fight to hold on to their core when the world becomes too heavy. If you're an INFJ and you've seen yourself in these things, you're not broken. You're responding to pain in the only way your system knows how. And just because no one else sees it doesn't mean it's not real. If you know an INFJ, don't push them to explain everything. Just be gentle, be steady, and let them come back on their own terms. Because the truth is, when INFJ survive these storms, they don't just recover. They evolve. And what returns is someone deeper, wiser, and even more powerful than before.